Begin the current Daf, Masech's Kidushin Daf Samachay. We begin 10 lines down the top of the Amud, where we continue with the halakha of the next Mishnah, continue with the theme of Nemanis again regarding believing someone as it applies to the laws of Kidushin. In Artzena HaKadosh and in the entire world. Something discussed in today's Daf are a man says to a woman, by the way, we got engaged. Or Kedashtes Biti, you actually engaged my daughter. Or Makadash Be'erecha, if someone gets engaged with one aid, what's the halachic status over there? Also, some of the concepts are we say that if we have witnesses that they were secluded, it's like having witnesses that they had bia. Do we say that movable items are encumbered for the ksuba? The mission of the litigant himself is like 100 witnesses saying if he's admitting himself. So begin the current Daf Samachay, 10 lines down on the top of the Yommi, we continue and look at the next Mishnah. A guy says to a woman, says, we got engaged. She denies it. Lahadam, look at Ashtani. You never got me engaged. So what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, okay, he's going to be forbidden in her relatives because of the halachic principle, what's called Shavin Avshachaticha De'Isura. You could make something forbidden on yourself. You say you're engaged to her, okay. You're forbidden to her relatives. Now, but she's allowed to marry his relative because she never admitted to such a thing ever happening. Next case, he marries Kidashtani. She says that, oh, you got me engaged. But he says, no. Look at that, I never got engaged to you. Okay, same thing. He's forbidden in her relatives. She's forbidden in his relatives. Next case, Kidashticha. He says, I got you engaged. She says, no, look at that, you're mixing us up. I know I look very young, thank you for the compliment, but no, you got engaged to my daughter. So who asa b'kreva is gedayla? So he says, no, it was you. So he's forbidden in the relatives of the older woman. But gedayla mutas b'kreva, now the older woman, the mother, she's permitted in his relatives, she denies it. And who mutas b'kreva is katana? He's permitted in the relatives of the minor because he says, no, I didn't get engaged to your daughter. Ukatana mutas b'kreva. Now the minor is permitted in his relatives because, like Rashi explains, the mother is not believed regarding the daughter. And therefore, she doesn't even require a get from Suffolk, because if she would require a get, then she would be his divorcee, and actually she would be forbidden in his relatives. So a father is believed, but a mother to say that I got my daughter, that you betrothed my daughter, is not believed. So therefore, they're both permitted in his relatives. Next case is Kedashti as Bitcha. Let's say he says, your daughter I got engaged to. The Imer says, no, look at that, you're mixing us up. It's me, the mother, that you got engaged to. So, who asa b'krev is katana? He's forbidden in the relatives of the minor, which is the daughter, which he claims he got engaged to. But the minor is permitted in his relatives because she doesn't claim, nor her mother, that she was engaged to him. And who mutter b'krev is gedayla? He's permitted in the relatives of the older one, the mother, because he says, I never got you engaged. The mother who claims she was the one that got engaged is forbidden to his relatives. Now, the Mishnah had said, the opening case of that if a man says to a woman, I betrothed you, etc. Now, says the Gemara, why do we need all these cases, in many different cases that we spoke about in the halacha of the Mishnah? What was the necessity, what was the chiddush of them all? Says the Gemara, Tzricha, we have to tell you them all, that someone that makes himself forbidden, his word is going to be forbidden, and someone that does not make himself forbidden is not going to be usher, because the yesh min gabadi day, had we said the opening case regarding him, when he says, I was Mekadesh you, I would say maybe, yeah, she's not going to be forbidden in his relatives. Why? Because he's lying. Why do we say maybe he's lying? Because a man doesn't care if he makes himself forbidden in her relatives for nothing. He says, hey, I might as well take a shot. Because Umikri Amar, it could happen that he'll say, oh, we got engaged, even though he didn't. Now, the thing is, but she herself, when she says, you got me engaged, she's making herself forbidden on the entire world until he gives her a get. Oh, Ema there, I would say, which was the next case. If she wasn't confident in her words that they really got engaged, she would never say such a thing. And therefore, we should make him forbidden based on her word, in her relatives, even if he doesn't or does give her a get. That was the chiddush that we needed to say. No, we don't believe her in what she is saying. Now, then the case number 3, that was regarding believing him. Okay, we don't believe him because, he guy might just lie. We don't even believe her. That was Chiddush number 2. Now, the third case was Kidashticha. If he says, oh, I was Mekadosh you, Vimer, she says, oh, no, sorry, it was my daughter. Says, what do we need another case to say the same idea? We already said it. Says, no, Itzchak was necessary. So you would have thought the same. Biblically, we know, as we brought in the previous daf, we believe the father regarding his beaten sat l'shazeh. So we would have thought to say midirabbanahim nu l'dida. Rabbinically, we should believe the mother regarding the daughter, and at least she should require a get, and that should be forbidden his relatives. And v'titza barata b'dibura, her daughter should be forbidden in her words. So to say no, we do not believe the mother at all. Then we had case number 4, when kedashte is bitcha v'chulu. The guy says, oh, I engaged your daughter, etc. And she says, no, it was me. Says, again, Hasul Limli, why do we need another case to say the same idea? Says, I did Tanaha, Tananameha. You're right, we didn't really have to say this case. It's just that it was the inverse, really, of the previous case. Once we said that, so we said that because we already said inverse before. Now, Itmar, we learned as follows. Rav Amar, he says, Koifin. We force him to give a get, which, because we said we have a situation over here where the woman really is going to be forbidden. He claims he didn't engage. She says yes. Now she's forbidden because she claims she's engaged. So Rav says we force him to give a get, and Shmuel HaMevak says no, we only make a request. So the Gemara says, wait, which case? You didn't tell me which case of the mission you're going on. There's many different cases. Ilema Reisha, we say we're going on the Reisha. What do you mean? The first case in the Mishnah, when he says to the woman, I got you engaged, and she says, no, you didn't. There's no forcing, there's no requesting, because she doesn't need a get from him. You told me that she'd put in his relative. If she required a get from him, she would be forbidden his brother because she would be Gerushas Achim. It's obviously not going on the case of the Reisha, so that's not the case. Okay, Ela Sefer. Must be going on the later case, which she said, you got me engaged, then she obviously needs a get, because she's claiming that she was engaged. He's saying, no, I didn't. So the Gemara says, I understand the opinion of Shmuel that says we request from him to give a get. That makes sense that you have to make a request. Because why are you making a request? He's now becoming forbidden. And her relatives, he loved that family, and one of the crazy daughters says that, oh, you got me engaged. He says, she always was jealous that he loved the older sister. And says, now to permit her to get married, and because he has no interest in this crazy girl, now the girlfriend that he always had all these years, suddenly he can't marry her anymore. So it makes sense where you got to make a request. But what do you mean you force him? You could say, I don't want to be forbidden in our relatives. Why would you force him? I understand why you make a request, but how do we understand Rav? So the Gemara says, no, but the truth is, the teaching of Rav and Shmuel are actually complementary. They were said near each other, they're not disagreeing on each other. The later one is coming to add on what the first one didn't say. So it goes like this. First it goes, Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, the truth is, we only ask him, we request of him. I know this is the girl you always want to marry. Lamaisa, this girl is going to be stuck for the rest of her life. She's going to be an old maid. So make a request to give a get. On that, Amar Rav says, Im nosen get me atzmai. If he gave the get on his own without any request, Kaifin Ice is going on something else. Then we force him litin kisuba to give a ksuba to that girl because he reveals that he really had been mekadosh, and if she was engaged to him, then Narusa gets a ksuba. That's what the Kaifin Ice comes. It comes to that crazy sister, you really did like her, and you really were mekadosh. She said, you engaged me. And he says, not. So therefore, that's when the Kaifin is, if he gives it on his own. So we learned that Amar Ravacha Barad Amar Rav, Amar Lesansa Amar Ravacha Barad Amar Rav Hamnun Amar Rav. We force and we request. So how does that make sense? Tarti? Both? So he says, no, Hachim, it's exactly like we're saying now. Mevakshin mimenu litin get. We ask him to give a get. We give it on his own. Then we force him to give a ksuba. Now, relating back to the halacha of the Mishnah, the Gemara says the following teaching. Since I'm a kaddish be'edechad, someone does Kidushin with one witness. It's a guy and a girl and another guy with them. We're not concerned for the Kidushin that was done with one aid. So Rabbi Yehuda asked Rabbi Yehuda like this: what happens if Shnei Moedim? Let's say they both agree to what the one witness is saying. What's the halacha? In other words, this that you're saying that we're not concerned is it because we don't believe Eid Echad, but they're believing him, or maybe no, because Kidushin does not take effect halachically without Eidim, because we learn out Davar from Mammon. It says by Rayist Erebes Davar. It says by Mammon Al Pishnai Eidim Yakum Davar. Both of them say the word Davar. Just like whether you need to have two witnesses or whether you need to have two witnesses, it's the halachic. It's not just the lying and believing part. So what's the halacha if they say we both agree what the Eid Echad is saying? So the Gemara tells us that in Veloy, Rabbi Yehuda said yes, he said no. He wasn't confident what he was saying, not to say it's forbidden, not to say it's permitted. Sometimes he would say yes, sometimes he would say not. And V'rafi b'yada, it was weak, it was loose in his hands. He wasn't so confident regarding this ruling that he had. Now, Idma, we learned that Amar of Nachman Meshumli says, someone does Kidushin with one witness, and that's a Philish name. He says clearly, says even if they both agree, has no relevancy, it's not going to have any halacha, because the Mefarshim explained that regarding Mammon is effective even without aid, we really need the witness for proof. Kedushin, it's not effective at all, it's not performed before two witnesses, it just halachically does not take effect. Now, on that says the Gemara Esvei. Rava asked Rav Nachman for the halacha of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah said the following halacha. It says, if someone says to a woman, I got you engaged. Remember 2 weeks ago I gave you a ring? She says, no, like it's not true. You never got me engaged. So the halacha is, we said, who else he's forbidden her relatives, and she's permitted his relatives. Now, the question that's screaming out of all the cases of our Mishnah is, what was the story? If there were witnesses, why is she permitting his relatives? We have witnesses saying that there was a Kidushin happen. If there was no witnesses, then even if she would admit, why is he forbidding her relatives based on what he's saying? But it's not a Kidushin, even according to his words. Because even if he would say that the Kidushin was with one witness, and even if both of them admitted, it would have no halachic relevancy. So, because Eid Echad is only like Machai B'Shuv Din Momnis, so therefore by Erva it would have no halachic relevancy. So Rashi says some wording Heichadein Eid Echad, when there's no Eid Echad Loy Amrit, you're not going to say Eid Echad Chashav L'Chai B'Shuv Din, even know what Rashi is saying over there. Al Kaponim. Yeah. How are you going to make yourself also? There's no Kedushin. You didn't do anything. Even if we believe you didn't do anything, halachically requires to aid him. You didn't do a kedushin. You gave her a ring. You gave her a nice gift. You didn't do a kedushin. So the Gemara said, and the question was basically on the opinion that's saying that when they both agree to Eid Echad, it doesn't work. That's what we're asking. We're saying, wait a second. So it would sound like that if they do admit to the Eid Echad, that it would be a kedushin. You're saying it wouldn't be. So no, it's not true. Over here, good answer. The Gemara says, talking about we said to I'm engaging you in front of I engaged you in front of Shmuel and Yaakov, which was a full-fledged kedushin according to his words, and he's believed to make himself awesome, but he said, but I went overseas, so there's no way of proving it. But there was halacha kedushin, so there's no raya to say the case of Eid Echad. No, it's not true. Even if they both agree to Eid Echad, it's not going to be anything, which. That was really what the Gemara's question was. Whatever, but Al Kaponim, it's not a riot. The Gemara says, Ace, but the Gemara, however, continues to ask on Rav Nachman from a Mishnah, Masechtas Gittin. Mishnah says, Hamagadish es ishtoi. Someone divorces his wife. And he spends the night with her in a motel, even at a later point in time. It says, she does not require from a second get. Now that you guys spent the night, you have to give her a second get. What's the case talking about? If there's witnesses that she was engaged with the bia that he spent the night with her in the motel, of course she should require a get. If there's no witnesses, what's the reason Basil? What do you mean? What Kedushin? Kedushin requires witnesses. Must be that there was one witness, and they both admit, and therefore Beishamai, we can understand that there's no witnesses. He says, no, but that was obviously Beis Hill. So you see, not like what you're saying, we see that Beis Hill would hold that Eid Echad, if they agree, would be a Kedushin. Gemara says, no. According to reasoning, look at the Sefer. Sefer says, the Maidim, that they agree, she gets divorced from engagement, that she does not require, meaning if they were only engaged, and then they spent a few months later a night in a motel, that everyone agrees she would not require a second get from him because it's not like they were so intimate at any point in time. So although they were stuck somewhere on the road and they spent the night in a motel, there was only one room left, they spent the night, everyone agrees that you're not going to require a second get. because we have no reason to believe that they were intimate. Says, I don't understand. If you're going to say that one witness is believed, and that's the case you say must be talking about. So Mali Minaris and Mali Mazim, what's the difference if they were engaged at one point or married at one point? That should still be the same machlokes. Ella, rather, obviously, that it's not difficult, because what we're talking about in this Mishnah is giving the Ikka Ed Yichud. We're talking about that there was witnesses that we saw them secluded, we saw them go into the room and lock the door, like A to B, but there's no witnesses that saw them actually having relations. It's nothing to do with Eid Echad. We have witnesses, we have two witnesses, but they only saw the seclusion. Beshami hold it loy as a good I mean, we don't say hey we don't say the fact that it was secluded means they had intimacy, and therefore you don't require a second get. I have no clue. Why should I think that they had in other words, I don't have Eidim on the Bia, on the Kidushin. No. I mean, we say the witnesses that saw them be secluded. That's like we say by the Yichid room, we have two people on the outside. Those are the witnesses that they don't have to testify regarding the Bia. Because since Liba Gaspa, we presume, if a Chazaka, that had relations with her for the purpose of a Kedushin. And if you have Eidim on the Kedushin. Now, but that's what we say, but they for sure agree with the Skashim and the Erison. If they broke up the Shidduch, they were only engaged. That's where we say they agreed. We don't say that the witnesses that it was according to the witnesses that they had Bia, because they weren't so intimate, and therefore there's no reason for us to presume that it's the same thing, and therefore it's not a difficult on the opinion that holds that Eid Echad is not going to be Kedushin at all. Now, the Gemara brings the same thing, like Shmuel's teaching. He says Mekadosh Be'eid Echad. If someone's Mekadosh with one Eid, even if they both say yes, the boy and the girl agree that there's one guy and we got engaged or whatever, it doesn't make a difference. Halachically, has no validity. Now, Amar Rabbi Ravuna says, if someone does the Kidushin with one aid, the great court says, what's the great court? Rav, it's Rav's Bezdin. Those that say that actually Rav is said in the name of Rav, and who was Rav calling Beidin Rav, is actually going on someone in the previous generation of Rebbe, of Rebbe Nasi. The version went, Amar Rav, Amar Rav. Rav said, if someone does Kedushin with one aid, the great court says, who's the great court? That's Rebbe, that's Rebbe Nasi. But the Gemara continues asking, from a very interesting story. The Brisa says like this: you have two people coming from overseas, and it's like a novel, like one of these, and you have a woman with them, and there's a package with them. Okay. Each one has a different story. And this is my bags. Okay. Man number two. The other guy says, no, this is my wife. This is my slave. And this is my bag. Okay. Story number three. The bag's maybe going to talk also, but no. The Ishaimeres, and the woman says, no, Elushne Avdai, these are my two slaves, and it's my bags. Okay. So you have three different narratives, three different stories with the two women, the man, and the bag. Okay. Says the Bryce like this. She requires two divorce documents. The Gemara assumes originally is to permit her to get married because each one is claiming that she's the wife of them. And she collects her ksuba from the bags, because either way, she's one of their wives, or it's her bags. Either way, she deserves to get a ksuba. The remaining amount in the bags is obviously a suffix until y'all never comes and tells us we don't know what to do with the bags because everyone's claiming it's theirs. Okay, that's the brisa. Says what is the case of this brisa? As the Gemara explains, if there's witnesses for one of them who says that it was in front of us that this guy has makadosh this woman, and the second man also has witnesses saying that she was mukadeshes to him, and that's why we have the suffix. So then the question is, could she say that these are my two slaves and it's my bags? That we said that that she's claiming that the excess of what's her ksuba amount should be hers, and that there's besuffic, like as if there's a suffix. How could she make such a claim if we have witnesses that said that she was engaged to both of them? Okay, rather must be talking about that each one has one witness. That's what telling you that even if she's not admitting to him you see she's going to require a get, because or else, how could she make a claim that they're her slaves? We have witnesses that each one brings that she was engaged. So maybe they contradict each other, but it definitely contradicts her. How could she say that they're my slaves? Obviously, it's only one aid. One aid she can go against. And we believe her monetarily, but regarding Kidushin, we see we require her to get a get, as the Bryce is saying, with one aid. Even if she's not even admitting. That definitely contradicts what you're saying. Is that logical what you're saying? When you have one witness that's contradicted, do we believe? Meaning, even if she doesn't refute that one aid, there's no one that's going to say such a thing, because the whole halach of eid echad is only for a shvua. Here, the halach of shvua doesn't apply. So the Gemara says, Ella rather, lemishri la alma. So when it comes to permitting her to marrying someone else, you're right. The truth is, no one's going to disagree like Rav that she's permitted to marry whoever she wants to, because if there was one aid, also it would have no relevancy. So, and if there was two witnesses, then she wouldn't be believed at all, and we're saying we believe her. So what we're saying is like this. The reason why we're saying she requires two gitin is not to marry. To marry someone else, of course you can marry. Is to allow her to collect the ksuba from the bundles. In other words, the truth is the bundle, the bags that they have is going to remain until Yom never comes. Only if both of them give her a get on their own, and the get then brings to allow her to collect the ksuba from the bundle. If it's this one, so then he's obligated to ksuba based on what he's saying, and so do this one. And for sure, if it's all hers, then for sure she gets it. Because Remei, it's going like Remei, that he says that movable items, which what this bag is meshubet to a ksuba. In other words, the whole chiddush would only be telling us only this chiddush that metal now meshubet to the ksuba, and it's going like Remei, who says in ksubas on the payam and bays by shemer siyavim that a ksuba is on the nechasim of a first husband. That if the brother leaves over monies, then he buys land with it and he eats the pears. Obviously, you see that the monies were meshubet to a ksuba. That's the chiddush of the brayso. Okay, so the Gemara said we didn't answer the question then. So the question is, Mahabala, what's the conclusion regarding Kidushin? What Eid Echad, is it valid or not? So the Gemara tells us, Rav Kanomi says that Ein Chayshin LeKedushin. No, we're not concerned with the Kidushin. Rav Papa says, yes, Chayshin LeKedushin, we are concerned with the Kidushin that's done from the 1-8. So I'm like Rav Ashi says to Rav Kahana, who said that we're not concerned with the Kidushin, he says, my daita, what's your reasoning? Why do you hold that when there's only one aid is no concern? Because the Alpha Dava Dava Mimam, when you learn out, the Gzera Shav, says Dava by Erbez Dava, by Arayis, which is what Kidushin is. You learn the word Dava that says by Al Pishna Meitim Yokim Davar, that just like over there, it's two witnesses, so too requires over here. The problem is, Ima Lahalan, if just like it says over there, by Mammon, the halacha is, the admission of the litigant himself is like 100 witnesses, like it says in the pasuk, that we rely on his partial admission to be obligated, and actually then these might mix it. So we take what he's saying. So then Afkan Sot over here, when they're both agreeing to the Kidushin, we said when there's, well, let's say 1-8, and both the man and the woman are agreeing and they're being minded to it, so why don't you say the same principle? Why don't you say, when the guy himself admits, if you're learning it from Mammon, then go all the way and say that their admission should make it valid even without two witnesses? Somebody says, no, it's not true. Hasam over there, look at Chayav Lachrini. There, when the defendant admits, he's not creating a liability to anyone else by this admission. The only one that's losing is him. So then, Ashim accused that when he admits, yes, we're going to take his admission like 100 witnesses. Here, we can't believe her, even though she is admitting to him as a Kidushin, because her relatives now become forbidden to him, and his relatives become forbidden to her. It's a chav lachrini. When it's a liability to others, we're not going to believe you, even by Mominus too, and the same thing would be over here, and therefore that's why, even if they both agree to this Eid Echad, it's not going to be a valid Kidushin. Now, related conversation, Marzutra Ravad Saba, B'nei Rav Mori Bar Isser, they were the children of Mori Bar Isser, they were dividing, they were divvying up the estate from their late father. Now, also come to Rashi. They came from the Rashi and they had the following interesting question. Normally, they said to him a lumdisha question. The pasuk says in the Vadim Al Pishna Eidim Omer, when the Torah says the Torah requires for halacha, the Torah requires two witnesses to testify to verify a fact. They wanted to know the lumdis, the understanding, the halachic principle behind it. Why is that? Is it because the Ibayla Mahadiv, someone wants to back out and to say, no, the story never was. Lemot Hajib is not going to back out because that these people are going to testify. Is that why the Torah requires witnesses? Why did they want to know this? Because they said, we're not liars. Vanan lehadri. We're not going to back out. Therefore we don't need witnesses when we're dividing up the estate. Like Dilma, maybe no. Even if they would agree to each other, lemekaima milsa, nothing is halachically valid, ella bisahadi, only with witnesses. Comes out that I might have his and he might have mine, because that means our division is nothing, because halachically it's only valid with witnesses. On that, Rav Ashi answered to them, witnesses were only created for liars, for those who deny things, that are going to say it's not the case. You guys are saying the truth? Go ahead. You don't need witnesses to divide the estate. It's not like halachically ma'akiv if there's no witnesses. Now, continue on this theme regarding Eid Echad, regarding the nemanis of one witness, which we spoke about regarding the chashash of Kidushin or not. Some of Abai says the following halacha. Amalei Eid Echad. Let's say one guy comes along and says, by the way, I was watching you eating your lunch. Achalta chelev. By mistake, I saw you ate forbidden fats. You have a carbon. And the guy is quiet. So Neman, the witness, is believed, and the carbon's going to be kosher. And Rashi explains there's no problem of oihoider love chatasa, which the Gemara elsewhere darshans, and not if other people let him know, which the Gemara darshans in the first sugi in Yavamas in Perkish Rab and Yavamas Pei Zayin Beis, because that's only that others should not let him know, and he denies it. When he's shtika kaida, okay, so then he will be liable. And Tana, we learned like this in the Mishnah Masechtas Krisis. Mishnah says, if one witness tells him, you ate forbidden fat. Well, he says, I didn't eat. Okay, then part is exempt. Oh, you see, time in the malay. The reason is because he said, no, he would be quiet. Mehaman, that the person would be believed. A similar teaching from Amabaya, if one witness tells him, he says, I want you to know that your taras became tummy. Well, let's try in this guy's being quiet. Neman, so the guy's going to be believed that it became tummy. But within the Bryce, it says like this. I mean, that one witness says that it became tummy. Another says no, it did not become tummy. Potter is exempt. Time the malay because he says no. If he's quiet, you can believe. A similar teaching. Abaya says, one witness says, we continue to talk Shorcha nirva. Your ox, by the way, I saw that there was a guy came along, some noyev, and he sodomized your ox. What's the significance? Now you can't use it as a carbon. Now, as Rashi explains, to give skila to the animal because of bestiality, that you need two witnesses. The Gemara says, just like the death of the owner is how you do the death of the animal. But it'll make it invalid for a carbon. Allah says this guy's quiet, doesn't deny it. So Neman, the guy who's saying the testimony, is believed. But in the Mishnah that says like this, and there the Mishnah is told about regarding the context of psulim of a carbon, regarding zvachim and b'chayris. It says if a sin was done with it, vishemis if we killed someone. If we know this based on the testimony of one witness, or based on the owners, Neman is believed. Says wait, this one witness, what's the case talking about? If the owners agree, that's the same case as based on the owners. Allah rather must mean the shasik is talking about the case of when he's quiet. That's the case. So you see this principle of being quiet with Eid Echad, that we're going to believe the Eid Echad in this situation. Thank you anytime for hosting us.